Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon Elkaf, Kohen from the East, and it's been a busy week traveling, and I was kind of all over the place this week, but I decided to do this lecture, record it, and before I record it, I have lots to say, but I'm gonna make it condensed, and I have a joke before I say anything, and the joke is as such. A priest and a pastor are standing by the side of a road holding up a sign that reads, "The end is near. Turn around now before it's too late." A passing driver yells, "You guys are nuts," and speeds past them. From around the curve, they hear screeching tires, then a big splash. The priest turns to the pastor and says, "Do you think we should just put up a sign that says, 'Bridge out' instead?" Now this week's Parsha is regarding the Parsha's Vayetz, which is Bereshit 28, Genesis 28. So, it's been a busy week, and we were going to look at this Parsha, Genesis 28, verse 10. And before I go look in this, I wanted to take you through some of the happenings. Last week I met a group, a leader over here, a man who runs a Torah-based fellowship. I think it's called the Pakistan Messianic Fellowship, something to that effect. It's registered. I had a little chat with him the other day, and I had a little discussion with him to find out how much knowledge he has and what he's teaching. Of course, he's teaching all the basic elements of Torah, circumcision, keeping the festivals, and Sabbath, and other bits and pieces. But I don't think the person has high-level knowledge in the Torah, because when I queried him and I told him a few things, he struggled to rectify them, because he's got this typical mindset that you have to find a verse in the Bible to validate everything. I told him that's not the way we do things. So we had a little discussion, and I asked him, I said, "Do you understand that what you're doing, obviously you're teaching the Torah, which is great." I said that, "Do you understand that you also have to do the Pidya Haben, the redemption ceremony for the people who have the firstborns over here?" And he didn't know anything about that. He said he associated that with the temple. I said, "What temple? That was never associated with the temple. That's nothing to do with the temple. It's a regular ceremony that occurs irrespective of a temple standing or not." And then he was talking about sacrifices. His understanding was that the sacrificial system is done away. It cannot be conducted any longer until the temple is rebuilt. And I told him that that's not true either, because what about the ordinances where a woman gives birth? And what about the other ordinances when somebody commits an avera, commits a transgression in ignorance? I said those things are always met, irrespective of the temple. I said, "Do you even understand that those were given prior to the temple being formed? And there was no tabernacle either at the time. It was given, and the tabernacle was set afterwards, but the commandment was there." So I explained to him that those things are met with monetary terms. They are equivalent values, and he wanted me to show him a verse. So I gave him a couple of verses, but he lacked the understanding to understand those verses. He was thinking that they are more to do with the legal terminologies, and he was saying that isn't that legal terminology, like court things? And I said, "No, it's not a legal terminology." I explained to him that the Kohen in the gate, he has all the authority given to him by Yahweh to do the things that are necessary at the time they are needed. And it's not what he's being taught, or what he understands is that you have to be in the land of Israel, or you can't enact certain laws. And I said that this is not a pick and mix. It's not a mishmash, Chinese buffet. You pick what you like and you don't pick what you don't like. I explained to him one time, I got a little angry with him, And I said, because he said to me, oh, we don't do this over here. And I said, I don't care what you do over here or you don't do over here. I said, I don't give two damns about it. I said, but what I do care about is the Torah that you're teaching needs to be accurate. And if you're going to be teaching people a mishmash Torah, then that's not Torah. So I said, you are commanded through the Torah that the Kohen in the gate has a right to instruct. So, who is your Kohen? You don't have one. I am here in your gate, and you're telling me that I can't enact the Torah. So he said to me, no, Rabbi, don't get angry. I said, I'm not angry. I'm just telling you that your way of doing things are not accurate. Yes, I'm happy to see that you're doing the basic tenets, but there are other tenets that you're not doing, and people are going to be, kind of led astray. Anybody can say anything, and then they don't know where they stand. So I explained to him that it is better for you that you follow through with everything. And I explained that I'm only passing through. I said I'm only passing through, visiting family and doing other things with my family. I'm not interested in who's running Christianity over here and who's running Torah. But as I'm passing through, I heard about you through a friend, and so for that reason I connected with you, contacted you to ask you what the brethren over here are doing. And he told me that 5 pastors had converted from a Christian fellowship into Torah and had circumcised, and then now they were doing Torah in another city. And I said, that's great, and continue to do the good work that you're doing. But beware that, there are ordinances, there are statutes, there are judgments that can be done today, irrespective of the temple. You should not join everything to the temple, because the temple and Torah can be done together or independently. So, this is another thing I said you need to understand, that, this idea that we are outside the land and we can't do certain laws. I said that's absolutely a false idea. So beware not to get into that kind of trap. Anyhow, so we had an interesting discussion. Then I had another interesting discussion with another person who's a friend and maybe a long-time follower of mine that I hadn't spoken to him for years. So I spoke to him on the phone over here, and he was happy to know that I'm here, and he wanted me to maybe at some point, if I can have a chat with him in his city, or maybe he'll come over or something. So that's all in the pipeline. But in the meantime, I wanted to go over the Parsha a little bit over here, and I wanted to pinpoint some things which are going to be immensely beneficial to all the mishpacha, all the family, all over the place, all over the world. And I would also encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube videos and click on the bell icon, so that when new videos are posted, new teachings are posted, that you're at least aware to go and look at those. Now we see in Genesis 28:10, it says, now Yaakov went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran, so he came to a certain place and stayed there all night because the sun had set. I want to stop here. And it says he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. Now what is the most important and critical thing in this is the first part of the verse, which says he came to a certain place and stopped and stayed there all night because the sun had set. So, what do we understand from this? Well, look at this way. There is no sunset Sabbath. You see, it didn't say that Yaakov had come to a place and sun had set and now the Sabbath had started, new day had begun. It doesn't say that. So from this is clear evidence that there was no such thing as a sunset Sabbath during the time of Jacob's life, and probably after his life for many, many years. I would say thousands of years. In fact, the sunset Sabbath did not start for some of our people until the Greek invasion into Israel, which happened much, much later. So beware that although I mean, I'll be honest with you, brutal honest, that it doesn't really matter if you do a sunset Sabbath, because it doesn't affect your salvation in any way or your blessings that God gives you. But just be aware that the Sabbath is actually, Torah Sabbath is only ever sunrise to sunrise. And this is something that you may hear from Christian circles, which will say, one group of Jews, they celebrated the Sabbath sunset to sunset. Another set of Jews celebrated the Sabbath sunrise to sunrise. Now, the statement is true to some effect, that is true. There were groups who never accepted the sunset Sabbath. But see, what Christians don't tell you, is they don't want you to know, is that the day was only a sunrise day. They don't want to tell you that. But the Jews do know that, by the way, but they still do the traditional sunset Sabbath, which is fine, which is, okay if that's what they want to do, that's no problem. So it's important to understand that the Sabbath that our people had adopted had come from tradition rather than rather than it came from the written Torah. So we're now talking about the written Torah versus traditions. Many things have crept into our people only through tradition. It then says, and he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to the Shemaim, the heavens, and there the Malachim, the angels of Elohim, angels of God, were ascending and descending on it. So I have a little footnote there. The footnote says, the Malachim, the angels, are descriptions of saved people who ascend and then descend. These are redeemed. So the Ram's hint shows people, not literal angels. In ancient thought, the ladder is 3 vertical pillars. We have the right side, the left side, and the middle pillar. The ladder is also known as a tree. The left side is the Father's strength, the right is mercy, while the middle pillar is Adam Kadmon, who mediates between the two. Adam Kadmon being the Messiah, symbolically and literally. And in ancient thought, the Hebrew word sulam for ladder and the word sinea both have a value of 130. So the Temple Mount region below is connected to Mount Sinea above, harmonized by the middle pillar. Then I give some values over here for the word Sinea. Samach equals 60, Yod equals 10, Nun equals 50, Yod equals 10, total is 130, and the word Sulam, Samach equals 60, Lamed equals 30, Mem equals 40, total is again 130. The other interpretation is that Moses and Aaron are the Malachim, or the angels, ascending and descending the ladder. Another variation is that if you spell Sulam with the Wa, then you get the value 136, which is the same as the word for Mammon. This means spending your life gathering Mammon and the way of Yahweh are not compatible. So we also see that within this same verse, in verse 14, it says, and also your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And in you and your seed all the mishpachat, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. The same promise is repeated that was repeated to our father, that was first given to our father Abraham. This promise has been repeated here. Now, I wanted to point out something very critical here for those of you who don't like to give tithes and who don't tithe and perhaps, for various reasons, whatever your belief systems are, that you don't do that. And I want to actually show you that it's actually very detrimental to you when you don't give money of your increase. Whatever your increase is, your jobs, your salaries, your businesses, whatever your increase is, and you don't give your 10%, it actually will backfire, because you will not be receiving an increase thereonto, the blessing that God has intended for you, because you don't give out, you don't receive. In other words, you don't circulate the money, and then more money will not come back to you. See, in Genesis 28:20, Yaakov is saying this, then Yaakov made a vow, saying, if Elohim will be with me, and guard me in the way that I'm going, and give me lachem, bread to eat, and clothing to put on, so that I come back to my father's house, father's bait, in peace, in shalom, then Yahweh shall be my power. And this stone which I have set as an altar shall be Elohim's Beit, shall be God's house. And all of that you give me, I will surely give you a tenth to you. Now, at this point, Jacob did not have wealth. He wasn't rich. He wasn't yet famous. He had nothing. He was totally empty. And he made this vow that any money that comes to him, any properties, any money, any cattle, any lands, whatever the increase of that land, property, wealth is, he is going to give that 10% back to God, always remembering that it came from him. So in this case, it's not a case of, he didn't say, oh, when I become a millionaire, I want to keep everything to myself. Or when I have $500,000 in the bank, then I'll decide to give some out. No, he made a vow, and this is a fine example of what many of you should be doing, is making a vow to God and saying that we are going to tithe, we're going to give 10% to you, so that you will bless us in return, because we are willing and happy givers. See, people who give out happily will receive happily too. And then people who don't give out don't receive. So this is a law of, not only the law of nature, but this is the law that what you circulate is what will come back to you. And if you don't circulate, then you don't get nothing back. So this is just a caution that we, the children of Israel, Bnei Israel, should be tithing and should tithe our increases regularly 10%. And I know that some of you may be struggling, and there may be a time that you struggle and you fail to give at all, or you might say, well, I'm struggling, I only give 2%. You see, then if you give 2%, that's understandable if you're struggling. But if you continue to do that and you don't change, then your struggle will never end. You see, your struggle will only end when you put the seed out, when you circulate that money that you're holding on to, and you make God a priority in your life. When you do that, then you will receive the reward of that as well. This is imperative that you understand that the only person that you should be tithing to is not some pastor or some person out there. You should be giving the money which is commanded in the Torah to the Levite in the gate, to the priest, to the Kohen in the gate. And that is how the blessings are going to come back to you. Now, of course, I don't know if you ever put this to practice, but put it to practice and see if it will help you. I had somebody who runs a trucking business, and he was saying to me that, Rabbi, I'm struggling, and but he doesn't give nothing. He don't circulate any money for his tithing, for his increase. So one day I said to him, I said, you're going to continue to struggle unless you start to give out your tithes. And he said, okay, and I'll see what I can do. And he did nothing. So he gives nothing out, and he receives nothing either. And then 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, he was telling me that he's struggling even more. So why is he struggling? His answer is very simple: because he does not circulate the money that God gives him freely. I mean, think about it. He's running a trucking business. He's making money. Yet, he puts food on his table, which is good, yet he does not return. He does not return what belongs to Yahweh. That is theft. That is stealing money from God. And unfortunately, many people do that, and so therefore they reap the rewards for it as well. Sadly, it shouldn't have to be this way, but sadly that's what happens. So I'll encourage you all, Bnei Israel, children of Israel, those of you who are mishpachat, whose families of Israel, remember, this is not a optional thing, and it's not a temple thing. This is a mandatory thing. This is a thing of blessing and reward, and you can either take the reward or you can take the punishment. It's up to you. I just caution you that beware that this is written in the book of Genesis, when yet the whole Torah was not given. Mount Sinai hadn't happened yet. It was, yet in the future. There was no temple. There was no tabernacle. Shiloh, the place where the first tabernacle was set, wasn't even, being used for service. All these things happened later. And then before that time, Jacob was doing this, and Jacob became very wealthy. Remember, Jacob became extremely wealthy, and he was able to send his sons to Egypt for food. He had money, he had cash, silver coins. So, do you want to be wealthy? Do you want to be blessed? Start tithing. You will receive your blessings. So, coming back to the other things that people have been asking me, and they have been asking me about really a recap of how to do things and how to best get things done, and are they doing anything wrong, or are they doing everything right? So remember, to clarify what I have said in the past weeks is as follows: that you write a list, a daily list or a script in which you detail 15 to 20 items. I mean, it might be more, it might be 30 items. If you're okay to write 30 items, absolutely no problem. You write 30 items. So those items that you're writing, they may be things that you're desiring in your life. It could be somebody's wanting a wife, so he writes a spouse. Somebody is looking to buy a house. He writes, I'm living in a house. Somebody who wants to maybe, I don't know, set up a charitable foundation. I'm running a charitable foundation. I'm happy and I'm running a charitable foundation. Somebody who maybe wants to travel the world, so he puts down that I'm so happy and grateful that I'm traveling the world. I'm a world traveler. So these are all things that you'll write. Short and sharp sentences. Single liners, maybe at most 2 lines. Single liners that you write. And if you want to acquire money, you can write, I'm so happy and grateful that money comes to me easily and effortlessly. So you write these things. I am so happy and grateful that money comes to me easily and effortlessly. Or you might write that I'm so happy and grateful that I am traveling the world. I'm a world traveler. And then it could be, I'm so happy and grateful that I'm living in my dream house, or in my 3-bed house, or 4-bed house, or 5-bed house. So these are ideas. So you just write those. You write maybe 15 or 20 of those. Maybe personal things, relationships. You will probably write, I am grateful that I have a wonderful relationship with my wife. Or a wife will be writing, I'm grateful that I have a wonderful relationship with my husband. We have a lovely life together. So these are all things, these are all ideas that you can write down. And you write them down daily. This is rote. And you write them down for, as I suggested to you earlier, in the previous audio recordings, that you write them down for 22 days of the month. Day 1 to day 22, you should be writing them down every day. Day 22 comes, you write it down, and then day 23 you relax. You relax for about 8 days, up to day 30. And then if a month has 31 days, relax. Day 31, relax, don't do nothing. Then day 1, start again. Start again. But every time you write this, you will face your success direction. And your success direction can be given to you if you write to me the email through through the website that we have, shimon63@yahoo.com. You can give me your date of birth, and I'll send you your success direction. You face your success direction when you write these things down. You read it out 3 times in the morning, if you can, 3 times in the afternoon, and definitely 3 times in the evening. Now in the evening you don't have to write it. You just repeat those words facing your success direction. Maybe your success direction is in the east, then you face the east and you say that. And maybe it's in another direction. But remember, the only way to figure out your success direction is if I can have your date of birth and I can figure it out for you. Now, in the case where you don't know your success direction, and you maybe for some reason you're having difficulty finding your success direction, then there are 2 ways to approach this. One way to approach this is in the Torah, the southeast. The southeast side is always seen as the physical blessing side. In other words, if physically you want to be blessed with lands, houses, cars, things like that, then you face southeast. So in the event that you don't know what your direction is, just face southeast. That's your success direction. For, Torah-wise, the Torah shows us that is a direction for properties, for lands, for houses, things like that. Cars and so on and so forth. Now, for businesses, for money, for business, Torah-wise, the success direction is in the north. So you could just face in the north, and if you wanted a business, you want a business that's a $5 million business, I am so happy and grateful that I'm running a $5 million business. Thank you, thank you. I am so happy and grateful that I'm running a $5 million business. Thank you, universe. So if you want to write that down, and you'll face the north, and you can repeat those words facing the north. That is perfectly fine, because a northerly direction is the place of heaven where Yahweh's throne is, and with that, when you say that, you're actually cementing it, and you're bringing it into your life as a reality, and it will come to pass, by the way. It's very, very powerful. So remember, anytime you have a business that you're desiring to make, and I'm giving an example of 5 million. It doesn't matter if it's 50 million, it doesn't matter if it's 500 million. Figures don't matter. You could wind it down and say, well, I don't know if I'm going to reach 50 million. How about if I just make $1 million business? That's fine as well. See, the sky is the limit. And why even limit yourself? Go wild. Set an objective that you feel is unachievable, but is actually achievable. Don't set a limit. Don't put a ceiling on your head and say, well, I don't think I can get beyond $10,000. No, that's the worst mistake that you can make. You must set an unlimited ceiling. And the unlimited ceiling says, well, you can go $1 billion, You can go 500 million, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million. Doesn't matter, Leave it to unlimited. So, you may want to set a ceiling and say, I'm running a very successful business that's generating $5 million annually. That's perfectly fine. It's achievable. Everything is achievable in life if you put your mind to it, if you set your target, if you are ambitious enough, then yes, then God can give you that business. It's entirely up to you. So therefore, you can do that facing the north, business-wise. And if you want to have properties on the ground, vehicles, those kind of things that are, anything that's attached to the ground, like physical land, then you should be facing southeast. Now, if you're running a fountain in your home, which you should be, for blessings, for bringing wholesome energy, money energy into your house, then I had discussed that you should put a fountain, a little tabletop fountain in your house, facing the southeast side of your house, but coming towards inside the house, facing inside. So the fountain should not face outside the house. It should face the water dropping inside the house, which is energy coming into the house. Now, if you're, one of those people who has a $500,000 home and, wants to put a nice big fountain outside, then again you can do that too. Again, that fountain you set outside your front door, it has to be facing inside. The water has to be dropping inside the house, face inwards. So these are things that you can do. I encourage you to put up a picture of elephant or elephants, plural, in your room, in your bedroom, because they bring in love energy, and they will help build love in your relationship, with your children, with your spouse. Of course, you don't want just the money. You want a relationship where you have love and you have affection with your spouse. You have a healthy relationship. So everything is geared towards relationship, and money, of course, will help that relationship. So also an interesting word that came into my path in the Torah in Genesis 31 verse 47, it says, Lavan called it Yigar Sahadutha, but Yaakov called it Galid. And Lavan said, this heap is a witness between you and me this day, therefore his name was called Galid. Now its name was called Galid. Now, I wanted to point out that this name is not only an Aramaic, but this name is actually a Sanskrit word. This is a Sanskrit word. Sanskrit is a kind of a language, ancient language, that is used in India today by the priests. The Brahman priests use this language, and that's basically what it means. So what this means is this is part of the Sanskrit language, and it's a heap of witness or a witness. So we do have Sanskrit words in the Bible, because as I've spoken many times, there are people, our ancestors, came out of India and then spread abroad into other nations, such as Turkey, and then of course settling in Israel and surrounding nations. So that's just a a token information for you, like a tidbit. So as I was saying that you will write your list daily for 22 days, and then you'll have a rest period of 8 to 9 days. Out of that period, when you are visualizing, you should be visualizing for I would suggest maximum 3 days of visualizing a particular item of your list. And whether you visualize, 4 items together, or whether you visualize 10 items together, or whether you only visualize 1 item at a time, entirely up to you of what priority you place on the items that you desire or the things that you desire. Whether that's a relationship, whether that is money, whether that is business, whether that is a house. So entirely up to you of what you desire to have and how you visualize it. And the visualization technique is very simple, that you would prepare yourself a little meditation, not too big, it doesn't have to be a 1 hour of meditation, only a 5-minute session of meditation, 5-10 minutes, to prepare yourself, to empty yourself out, and then you can go on and make the necessary visualization. And I also said that it is very important that when you write your list out, that you record that list. That will become your mental brain diet. And how do you use a mental brain diet? The way you use that is when you go to bed at night, when you're just about to jot down to sleep, you would play that back to yourself through your hands-free headset, or maybe use a Bluetooth. That's fine. You'd play that back, and you let it play back for a couple of hours when you're sleeping, and then maybe during the night you wake up, you can take it out of your ears and put it to one side. So you need to saturate your brain. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, and I wanted to play back over here, but I'm having difficulty because there's noises around me. I wanted to play back a recording I made on the midbrain activation of your brain. Now, what is the midbrain? The midbrain is the area where you have the pineal gland, and the midbrain is the actual area. It's a gray matter that we have that is hardly utilized by people. It is left mostly unactivated, and I made a meditation for it that activates the midbrain. And when the midbrain is activated, it will help you to manifest faster, because what it does, it trains your brain, and the midbrain is the area which is very important in bringing things into the present. In other words, we are not working. Remember, I spoke about time being an illusion, and time is where we are stuck, where we use time when we say, how long is it going to take? That's time. And then we have the other problem of logic, because we use logic and say, well, I don't see my car out there or my house out there. That's logic stumbling, making a block in people's imagination or in their mindset. So the two things, you remove temporarily the time and the logic, and when you train your midbrain with the meditation that I've recorded, it will help you immensely into manifesting. So maybe what I will do, I will play this, and hopefully if it records it, then you can listen to it, and then if it records it well, then what I'll do, I'll keep the recording, keep this segment of the recording of the midbrain session separate, and then you can listen to it separately. You can ask me for it. I'll email it to you. write to my email at shimon63@yahoo.com, and I can send that to you so that you can utilize that in your daily meditation. It's only 6 minutes long, by the way. It's only about 5 to 6 minutes. Not big, small. Very, very powerful though. This meditation is designed to activate your midbrain. Close your eyes. Breathe in deeply twice. Now see a sharp, bright light entering your right eye. It then enters your left side of your brain. You see a bright white light entering your right eye. It enters the left side of your brain. Now you see the bright light in the left side of your eye, and it enters the right side of your brain. Repeat the same thing again. The bright light continues coming into the left eye and enters the right side of your brain. Now you see the back side. At the nape of your neck, we have the spinal column, the spinal cord section. This is the area that the yogis believe is the life force of the whole human body system. From here you see the light. It pushes up into the top of your head, going to the pineal gland, and pushes up and it hits the top of your head. See the light pushing the top of your head. It descends to the brainstem. It then pushes back up. You see your whole body full of bright light. And you see your focus. Your focus is going to be the brainstem. I'm going to say a sound that's going to activate your midbrain. See that bright light pushing up through the midbrain into the top of the head, to your skull. Once again, see the bright light pushing through the top of your head. Now focus on the right ear, this light coming into the ear, descending into the ear and coming to the right ear, going into the left side of your brain. Now you see the light on the left ear going into the right side of your brain. Now you see this bright light coming into your right nostril, crossing through the two eyebrows side, which is a third eye chakra. See that bright light in your right nostril. Now you see another bright light into your left nostril, and you will see and visualize that the two lights are crossing the third eye chakra between your eyebrows. They are meeting at the third eye chakra between the eyebrows. Now I want you to visualize the topmost goal that you desire, whatever that goal is, whether it's buying a car, whether it's owning a house, whether it's the dream job, or whether it's a relationship that you aspire to. See that goal, focus on the third eye. Your chakra point is between your eyebrows. See your goal there in your third eye. Visualize there. Continue to see your goal there for the next 30 seconds. Continue and continue. And you can now stop. I want you to repeat this exercise at least 1 time a day with this midbrain meditation to activate your pineal gland, activate your midbrain. That's the area that will help you to manifest faster and quicker. And now slowly you can open your eyes. This is the end of the meditation. Thank you. So that was a recording for the activation of the midbrain, a very important area for manifestation and to bring faster manifestation. This is absolutely critical. And so I decided to record this for you and offer it to you free of charge. Anybody who desires to receive this meditation only has to write to me to the email address listed on YouTube or on our website at Abrahamic-Faith.info or forever-israel.com. That would be Shimon63, SHIMOUN63 at yahoo.com. It's available to you, and by all means use this to bring your manifestations to pass. This is by all means not the end, not the end of the meditations and not the end of the information, but I want to bring you back right down to 2 things. Number 1, who do you listen to is what's going to make critical difference in your life and where you get to. Number 2, do you have the Kohen in the gate as your as your mentor, as your provider, as a person who can support you in prayers, in service of God, in Torah, in understanding, in bringing things to understanding and knowledge and forbearance and how to do things. These are very important things. So I feel that the Mishpacha, the family in the US, is very fortunate that I'm there for them. I guess I'm only here in the East a short time on a visit, and as I come back and forth, it's good to liaise with the people, but at the same time, my country of stay is the United States of America, and so therefore you're a blessed people of the US to have me there. And then before that my stay was in the United Kingdom, and so the people in England benefited from my services there, and they still do. We're still in touch, still in contact. I have students there, Baruch Hashem Yahweh, not a problem. We have a rabbi there in London, Rabbi Jeremy, who's in service and who records his Torah, his New Testament readings every week that I post up on the YouTube as well. So if you want to catch up with any of the New Testament readings, then I believe he's doing the book of Mark now. He's done the book of Matthew. He's working on the book of Mark. He's very our rabbi in London is very dedicated to the service of Yahweh and to Torah. So by all means benefit from that. I also wanted to read out to you a letter that came from Ghana to me. So, I mean, there's a lot more instructions that I can give you, but I think that it's better for me to stop here. And what I will do is next week, because, you know, I've been in and out of stuff going on over here, and other things happening around me. There's been lots happening around me, things that I can't even state on the recording for obvious reasons, you know, because of security issues and because, you know, we're in a country where, you know, can't just give everything out publicly. A lot of things are going on over here that I'm not able to speak. So what I will do is I really want to record a detailed session of how to do your daily rituals, and I think for that maybe I will reserve time next week when I have a quiet time, there's no noise around me, and maybe that will be one evening when there's no noise around me, that I want to speak about that. I want to speak about the methods, the methodically, that what you can do daily to bring things into your reality faster. But, you know, these steps that I'm giving you today are going to enable you to do those things and to help yourselves quickly to bring blessings and favor into your life. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening to me. Rabbi Simon Altefa Cohen in the gate. Have a great day, have a great Sabbath, and a great week ahead. With that, I'd like to say Shalom, Shalom.
Start the recording. Shabbat Shalom to you all, Mishpachah, especially those of you who are listening via YouTube. Welcome, and if you have the opportunity, come and join us in the Power Talk room titled Empower Yourself in the Words of Jesus Yeshua. Come and join us, and you know, when you have the opportunity. But we're talking about the point of being alive and the point of having life. Being alive is totally different than having life. How many of you in this room right now and listening via YouTube would say that I'm alive? Put up a capital A and say, Rabbi, I am alive. I can remember at one time that I was living life and I realized that I just wasn't alive. Christianity had me in that. And I'm not knocking Christianity because it's just for some people. But I mean, I wasn't alive, but I was living. I mean, I was still, you know, walking and talking and going to a job and all this, but I wasn't alive. But that's one thing that the Torah does. When it talks about life, that means that you are alive. I am alive. Just like you say, Torah. I am alive. It's a big difference between living and being alive. And so you run into this as students of nature. You'll see this all the time. You're walking around with people that are zombies next to you. They're living, but they're not alive. So what animated me? Just the same thing that animated Adam Kadmon, or Ha'adam, was the breath of the Creator. What's that breath of the Creator today that animated me? Think of that, made me alive. Anybody know where I'm going with this? It was the Torah of Moses that did that. The breath of God is that animated me and made me alive, went from living to alive. Baruch Hashem. Isn't that beautiful? So when we talk about we're ushering in a new decade, I mean, we're coming up on 2020, baby. How many of you are ready for 2020? 2020 is today for me. 2020 is now. 2020. So we're ushering in a new age, and all of us, Baruch Hashem, those that have responded have ushered in. I know some of you can't respond because you're at work. You may even be driving. So I do respect that, and I'm not trying to single you out. But for those of you who could respond, Shabbat Shalom to you, Shane Yah, my brother from the same mother. It's important for us to understand that life is so beautiful, and we get to live it And we're in such a great time in history. Think about this for a minute. We're ushering in a new age, according to Gregory's calendar. We're not looking at the Jewish years and the Jewish calendar. We're not looking at that. We're looking at this from Gregory's point of view. Another decade that you all are going to be. How many of you were able to participate in the last decade? None of you in this room, right? So do you see how unique? You see how unique the situation is. This great grand experience. I tell you, it's beautiful. So some of you get it some of you really get it when I said that this is the last month of a decade. You get that, don't you? You get it. You're like, wow. So what does that make you do as an individual, as a person? It makes you have a high appreciation for life, and that you are alive, and that you are living in this time, in this age, in this history. Isn't that beautiful, Mishpahah? That's totally so beautiful. So yeah, I just had to get that out there because I heard some people say that this week, and I thought, wow, amazing. So me, I will continue with the attitude of gratitude and give thanks. Give thanks and give more thanks to the Creator of all things for the ability to be able to see this time on this earth. There's a lot of things that our forefathers, our patriarchs and matriarchs would have loved to see with their eyes that you and I have seen. Think about that for a minute. That the prophets, they would have loved to have seen these things with their eyes that you and I have seen. And they didn't get to see. And just the polar opposite. There's a lot of things that our matriarchs and patriarchs saw that you and I would have loved to have seen as well, right? So it goes both ways, doesn't it? It does go both ways. So we give thanks. We give thanks to the Creator. We give thanks to the Creator for all things and for being in this time. Now, here's the question. Here's where we are. What are we going to do, coming into this new decade? What motivations, what dreams, what desires do we have for ourselves? Okay, Pharaoh. What dreams and desires do we have for ourselves to do great and grandiose things, to start a family, to do the necessary, to do all the things that's going to make us happy, to give us peace and love and joy? What do we have lined up for ourselves? And that I'm not telling you to text anything in right now, but just something for you to think about for yourself. What do you want to do in this new age, in this new decade coming forward? How are you gonna participate? In this new age, come up with a game plan. I've learned this in trading the markets, is that you come up with a plan and you trade your plan. See, a lot of people, when they look at the stock market, they don't have a plan, so they just like they're willy-nilly, and then they end up losing all their money. But when you go into the stock market, just like with any other area of your life, you have to have a plan. Why do you think you do your scripting? Because that's your plan. That's your game plan. You see, now you have a plan. Now you just trade your plan. You trade your plan. And that's what you do. Then you'll find more success that way because you already have a game plan. It's all laid out before you. And that's so important. So I would encourage you all coming into this new decade on Gregorian calendars that you look to come up with a plan for yourself, where you want to be. And you're all doing it with your aspirations, and you're doing your journaling, and these things. This is your plan. Look at your plan, your game plan for yourself. Where you want to be, what you want to do. That's so important, how you see yourself, not how other people see you. Because my lecture today is dealing with Leyah. Leyah is my mother. How many of you in this room, Leyah, is your mother as well? Put up a capital L if Leyah is your mother. Leyah is my mother. Because I'm from the tribe of Judah, that makes Leyah my mother. How many of you know that Leyah is your mother? If you do know. Maybe some of you don't know what clan, what affiliation, what son of Jacob you derived from. But if you can say Leyah is my mother, put up an L. You say Leyah is my mother too, Rabbi. Leyah is my mother. So today I titled my lecture Leyah's Lesson. What lessons did I learn from Leyah? And we can look at this, and to God for your responses, by the way. But we can look at this and we can examine. We can take lessons and we can learn lessons from everybody. I was reading some quotes, and I'm gonna get my quotes in a minute. But I was reading one from Gandhi, and Gandhi said that your enemy is your. Listen to what Gandhi says. Gandhi says that your enemy is your best teacher. I was like, wow. Think about that for a minute. That your enemy is your best teacher. Shabbat shalom to you, Abrahamic. That your enemy is your best teacher. Is that not a profound statement? Maybe a lot of folks never considered that your enemy could be your teacher. But yes, doesn't your enemy teach you? But here's a question for you. Here's an even more important question. Who is your number one enemy? Who is enemy number one, in your opinion? There's no wrong answer. Who is your number one enemy? Think about this. Your enemy, your enemy is your number one teacher. Your enemy. I was like, wow, your enemy, really? A lot of folks are saying self. Who is your number one enemy? But when you look at the world as a whole, most folks look for the enemy in someone else, right? Most folks say they point the finger. This the enemy. That's the enemy. This the enemy. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. You all family are clued up and you understand the enemy is within. Simha, Shabbat Shalom to you. From sunny California. The enemy is within. And tell you what, when you can recognize the enemy, that's half of the battle right there, just recognizing who the enemy is, right? But a lot of people, this is why they always lose the battle and they lose the wars, because they don't recognize who the enemy really is. Think about that for a minute. You know, this came to me this past 6 days of labor in my meditations. How many times in the Torah is the word Satan mentioned? Any takers? Anybody ever think about this statement besides myself? How many times in the Torah is the word Satan, Hasatan, evil one, mentioned in the Torah? The first 5 books of the Bible. Anybody tell me? How many times? Oliver, to for your response. Oliver says 0. And Oliver is not a 0, he's actually a hero. But Oliver says 0. Lion Princess says never. Now, isn't that something? Did I just explode somebody's mind with that? Think about that for a minute. I tell you, it blew my mind when the Hokmah told me that. She asked me, well, how many times is Satan mentioned in the Torah? Think about it. How many times, Mishpahar? Isn't that did anybody get a revelation from that as well? That I just got the revelation? Or was it just, am I the only one that's kind of getting goosebumps behind that statement, behind that fact? Anybody see the revelation in that? Yet the majority of folks on the face of this earth are blaming Hasatan for their situation. Remember we talked about the enemy? Hasatan is enemy number one. Think about that for a minute. This is why they always lose the battle and they lose the war. It's because they don't recognize the enemy. And the enemy is within. But when you recognize that the enemy is within, then you can go to battle, you can go to war, right? Because then you can plan for that. And that's what Hakohen has given us. He's given us tools to conquer the enemy. Hallelujah. Do you get it? Man, you guys should be dancing like David right now. Isn't that beautiful? I thank thee, Hokmah, for imparting revelation upon me so that I can truly continue to understand. And get underneath my God. And get underneath His protective wings. So that I can live an abundance of a life. Isn't that beautiful, Mishpah? Isn't that's just major beautiful to me? And I'm like, wow, okay. Now I recognize who the enemy is. Now let's deal with him. Another great tool we were given today is the midbrain. My goodness. How to wake up and turn on the midbrain, you see. Simha saying self-ego is a teacher, right? If you call the enemy a teacher, yes. Indeed. If you believe Mahatma Gandhi's statement, that your enemy is your number one teacher. I believe that. Because you can learn a lot from self. But too many years, wasted decades, people have not found self. And they look for the enemy in everybody else. Lottie-dottie, everybody else has the problem. Not me. Can't be me. Maybe some of you were in that situation at one time or another. But now, you're alive. See, that's the difference between the living and being alive. Alive, you know where the enemy is. You recognize the enemy, and you have conquered the enemy. Yes, you may have lost a few battles, but guess what? You won the war. Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh. Baruch Hashem to the Creator of all things. You have a one-upper. Let's look at our quote for the day before we continue on into the lecture. But we can learn a lot, not only from our matriarchs and patriarchs, but from our foes, from those that don't agree with us, from those that don't love us, from those that actually hate us. You can still learn from these people. You know, people that hate me and give me the haterade to drink, these people, you know what they do to me? Is they build my what? They build my patience, they build my compassion and love. Guess what? If everybody just loved you, how are you going to hone in on your skills of patience and long suffering? Think about it. So you have to have these people into your life to test, to gauge where you are when it comes to, compassion and true love. Like Tina Turner said, what does love got to do with it? Well, guess what, Tina Turner and the rest of you, love has a lot to do with it. How many of you in this room want love? Put up a capital L. You say, Rabbi, I want some love. If you want love in this room, put up a capital L. You say, yeah, Rabbi, I want some love. Tina Turner talking about what love got to do with it. I would hate everything. Because what do our books tell us? For God so loved the world that what did He do? He sent His unique Son, didn't He? Isn't that what our books tell us? So, love is one of the default settings of humanity, of all human beings. It's to love. So for those of you who didn't respond with some love, then my goodness, you may want to go back and do some assessing. We should all want some love. And more of it. You never get too full of love. You see, love is deeper than an emotion. Love for us, the children of the books, descendants of Jacob, love is an action. It's not an emotion. When you can get to that point, my goodness, you have won the battle, the war, the everything. You are a conqueror. Think about that for a minute. We've been conditioned to think love is an emotion. How many of you realize love is an action? Put up a capital A if that's you. And it's not just an action between the sheets. That's just, that right there is that right there plays a part, because Nakshan wouldn't be here if I didn't get between the sheets, Baruch Hashem. But love is an action. To double your responses. You see, one of the first parts of truly being successful and winning the war is participating. You got to get in there and participate to fight the battle, right? You got to fight. And your fighting right now is the keyboard warrior type, where you participate. You say, yeah, I get that. I'm going to participate. I'm going to see that's the first part. You see, as I like to sit back and notice things and just watch things, I sit back and I examine a lot of things when it comes to human nature. And I look at those people that respond and those that don't. Every time I open the room, I like to look at who's in the room, who comes in first. Little things like that. You see, this tells me something. You know what I mean? This is part of the student nature. I'm starting to uncover some of the things that like what Rabbi Kefa looks at when he studies human beings. I look at their actions. I like to watch the Discovery Channel, National Geographic. Why? It's because, human beings, they go out and what do? They study and they look at the actions of animals and they just watch them in the sea, on land, in the air, and they'll sit there and just watch them. And they'll put these cameras on. How many of you watch that too, National Geographic and Discovery Channel? And they just put these cameras there and they'll leave them there for months, right? They'll set these cameras up and they'll come back a month later and then they'll take the recordings and go back and just examine them and just look at things. So they understand the behavior of an animal, thus understanding the animal better. My wife was watching one last night on bears. I thought that was very interesting. Mama bear and her little cubs. I find that very, very interesting. Human nature and how we get on, and how we get on by our actions. Love is an action, Miss Farr. How many of you women in this room have been hoodwinked and bamboozled with just love word, just the love word in word and not in deed? Any woman in this room? Put up a lowercase L if that's you. You're like, yeah, Rabbi, I know what you're talking about. That man told me he loved me with his word, but his action was so far from love. Think about that for a minute. To God for your responses, women. Men, you see this? You see this? So don't put yourself in that category. Because here in the West, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of women that are wounded because they've been hoodwinked and bamboozled by the emotional love. You get me? You get me, men? Men, stand up. Say, yes, Rabbi, I see what you're saying. Put up a capital Y, men, if you get that. And maybe some of you men, you were at one time or another in that category of hoodwinking and bamboozling the women to do these things. Just for modus operandi. Maybe just to get between the legs. So you tell them you love them. Or maybe so they could just buy you that iPhone that you wanted, so you tell them that you love them. Or because they told you, hey, can you tell me that you love me? How many of you women are guilty of saying this? You saying this to your mate or your husband. Honey, tell me that you love me. Any woman now listen, I appreciate your honesty. Because I'm understanding women. If you're guilty of doing that where you actually had to tell your mate, significant other, loved one, husband, you say, honey, can you tell me that you love me? I want you to spell out the word love, L-O-V-E. If you're guilty of ever doing that, woman, anyone, or even any man, because men have feelings too. You have emotions. Any man or woman in this room ever, you guilty of doing that? Where you say, honey, can you just tell me that you love me? Just tell me. To God for that, line person. Line person, yes, sometimes. Anybody else? Honey, can you just tell me that you love me? And then they tell you that you love me. And then you feel so good. Torah says yes. To God for your responses, by the way. You see, this is real life stuff. This is relationship stuff that we all need to understand and grow from. And become more experienced at, right? Because we all want to deal with that enemy that's within. So we can just crush him. We're just going to crush him or her up. We're just going to crush him. It's important for us to understand that. Love for me is an action. Yes, I tell my wife I love her all the time. But then guess what I do? I back that up with some action. And she sees my love in action. And she tells me she loves me too. And that's great. I mean, I love to be told that I'm loved. But more importantly, I like to see it in your actions. So when she cooking them fine meals, man, smelling up the whole house like a Chinese restaurant, oh, she loves me. I know she loves me. And you got the neighbors smelling it next door like, hey, what's your wife cooking over there? Yeah, I know she loves me. I know she loves me. She don't have to say it. She shows it. But I do understand that sometimes you need to say it as well. That's just like positive reinforcement. Because we understand that words have power, right? Words have major power. So let's look at some words from some successful people this day. Well, a successful person. Listen to this. The most successful people in life are the ones who always ask questions. They're always learning. They are always growing. And they are always pushing. Nice quote, right? The most successful people in life are the ones who ask questions. I can remember, I read that quote and I was like, yeah, he's right. I was in Catholicism. I never asked any questions. How many of you are with me? I was in Christianity. I never asked any questions. I never did. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Thus, how can I be successful? I was never asking questions because it was always, okay, well, the pastor said. Well, the pastor said. How many of you have been there? You've been the pastor's parent. Well, the pastor said, so blah, 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 blah. Never asked any questions. Just followed right along. Remind me like the sheep led to the slaughter. Never asked any questions. So how am I going to be successful? Christianity, Catholicism. I never asked any questions. I just went wrote. Whatever they said, do it. Okay, bow right here, do this. Carry this cross over here. Okay, do this. Carry this candle over here behind the priest. Do that. Okay, yeah. No questions asked. I never asked not a single question. Anybody ever in here come from the Catholic religion? Put up a capital C. If you come out of Catholicism. You see? You come out. Oliver said they told me I was asking too many questions when I was Catholic. Yep. That's good, Oliver. I like that one. You come out, a lot of people says, I got verbally chastised for asking questions. Good. That's good stuff. But I never asked any questions. Went through catechism, was an altar boy, all that mumbo jumbo, thinking I'm getting closer to God. Never asked any questions. I just thought, hey, this is what you did to get closer to God so I could get to heaven, blah, blah, blah. Never asked any questions. I never asked any questions. They're always learning. Always growing, always pushing. This is why you heard it in Hakoin's lecture. He told us, oh yeah, there's more to come. There's always going to be more and more and more. Hakoin is always going to equip you with more tools so you can win the battle and win the wars with your enemy. And I tell you, we're annihilating the enemy, aren't we? We're annihilating the enemy. And it's making us stronger so that we can have that abundance of a life here on this earth. Welcome to paradise, baby. It's another day in paradise for me on the face of this earth. That's how I see my life. I don't wait for paradise. Paradise for me is right now. I look at my son, Nakshan, my newborn son, and I see paradise. I see heaven. I look at my wife, and I do see heaven. I do see heaven. I really do. And I give thanks to the God of Israel for heaven on earth. Baruch Hashem. Because believe me, the earth is not going anywhere, but people are. The most successful people in life are the ones who ask questions. They're always learning. That's why you're here right now. You want to learn some more. You want to learn. You want to learn about love. What does love got to do with it? What I would submit to you everything. That's the lesson of Leyah. Leah's lesson was about love, wasn't it? We're going to learn about my mother. Leah's lesson was about love. Always learning, always growing. I always want to grow. I'm going to keep myself humble and always say that I can always grow. And every one of you in this room can always teach me something. I can be taught by my dog Pharaoh. I can be taught by my newborn son Nakshan. I can be taught by my teenage daughter Angela. I can be taught by my wife. I could be taught by these ailing children that have been sent home to die by the doctors and given a death sentence. I can be taught by them as well. I can be taught by a plant in the garden, Baruch Hashem. Always pushing. That would go along with me writing my script, my affirmations. Wanting more than what I have now. Wanting better, and better. Just like our books tell us. I want to be exceedingly prosperous in all things. How many of you want the exceedingly prosperous status? I want to be exceedingly prosperous in every one of my relationships. Relationship with money, relationship with marriage, relationship with people, relationship with pets, with plants. I want to be exceedingly prosperous. I'm not going to settle for just prosperous or just getting by or I'm all right. No, that's not good enough for me. Always pushing. That's your default setting, children of Jacob. You should. My mother Leyah, she was always pushing. So I'm going to always push. What was Leyah always pushing for? Always pushing for the love relationship. Nobody wants to feel like they're on an island by themselves. Nobody wants to feel like they're alone or lonely. Yet we hear that all the time. Rabbi, I'm so alone. How can I connect? I'm so alone. I'm so lonely. Why are you so lonely? Why are you so alone? Because you haven't recognized who the enemy really is. It's within. And that's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo you're being fed. That you're lonely and you're alone. Don't seek fulfillment outside of yourself or what other people think or who you need to be around. Fulfill yourself within. Baruch Hashem. Another quote from the same person here. Winners are not afraid of losing, but losers are. Failure is a part of the process of success. People who avoid failure also avoid success. Wow! How many of you want me to read that one again? That's a hunk of burning love, miss. Listen to this. Winners are not afraid of losing. Winners are not afraid of losing, but losers are. If you have the loser mentality, you're never going to want to win, so you're always losing. Wow, isn't that heavy? Winners are not afraid of losing. I'm a winner, and yes, I've lost some battles, but guess what? Rabbi Kefa came back and won the war, baby. When it comes to relationship with wives, I've been married several times. I lost some battles, but guess what? I won the war. Now I'm married forever, and I found my heaven. Ooh, we ought to write a song about that. I found my heaven, and it's in the form of my wife. I found it. But guess what? I lost some wife battles, but I won the war, Mishpachah. Losers are not afraid of losing. Winners are not afraid of losing, but losers are. Failure is a part of the process of success. So when you fail, I want to encourage you all this day. You might think, oh man, I'm failing. No. That's just the process of you succeeding. Failure is fuel. I may have done a lecture on this a while back. Failure is fuel for success. However you want to see it. That woman, that man, that job, that house, that car, that baby. Failure. Well, Rabbi, I've had several miscarriages, blah, 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 so I'm not going to, I'm giving up. Failure is a process of success. People who avoid failure also avoid success. Do you know people, Mishpachah, I believe in this statement. I believe in this quote. Do you know people who are so afraid that fear paralyzes them that they don't do anything? And remember we talked about love is action. How many of you're like, man, maybe back in the day there was this one woman or this one man, and you had a crush on them or you liked them, but you never told them anything. And then every time you would get around them, you would freeze up. When you weren't around them, you had all kind of plans. You had it all planned out how it was going to be. You would dream about how you guys would link up and meet, at least have a conversation. But when the person is like in your face, then you freeze up out of fear, and fear paralyzes you, and you never said anything to that person. How many of you had that kind of scenario happen in your lifetime? To where you look back, you say, man, I wish I would have just said something to that person, at least said hi or something, strike up a conversation or something. But because you were in fear of not succeeding, that you never tried. To God for that, Atara. So I said, yeah, that was me. And that can happen. Fear will paralyze you. Fear will paralyze you to where you don't take action. People who avoid failure also avoid success. Embrace failure, because you're just one step closer to success, to succeeding. What a profound statement. And the last one I'm going to read from this person is this one. The most life-destroying word of all is the word tomorrow. The most life-destroying word of all is the word tomorrow. How many of you get that? What is that saying in your opinion? What do you glean from that quote? The most life-destroying word of all is the word tomorrow. Anybody get that? And if you do, please share it with us if you get it. And what do you glean from it? In your opinion, what is that saying? What is that saying to you? How does that resonate with you? The most life-destroying word of all. Remember, we talked about life. We're not trying to destroy life. We're trying to embrace life. We are embracing life. We're not trying to destroy it. The Torah says putting things off when it should be now. That's what I got, Torah. When I read this quote, I was like, oh, this guy is present. He lives in the present. He lives in the now. He's like our God. He's omnipresent. He's got God-like characteristics. He's omnipresent. He's now. He's present. Can't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow or yesterday. It's now. Isn't that brilliant? That's beautiful. The most life-destroying word of all is the word tomorrow. Our books tell us that tomorrow will take care of itself. Right? What about now? Do you get it? Isn't that beautiful? So those are the quotes. Now, anybody want to take a gander who these quotes come from? I give you a hint. Being a family of Israel, this man is big time on real estate. And we are too. Because land is our inheritance, right? How many of you in this room, you like the notion of owning many lands, many homes? Anybody? Put up a capital R for real estate if that's you. You have this real estate in you, like, oh man, I'd love to own, I'm gonna own some properties, several houses, maybe even some apartment buildings, maybe even some office buildings. Like, real estate is like in your core. Anybody, family, that's like that? It should be. Real estate is your inheritance. Do you know our God is all about real estate? Why else would he give his children an inheritance of real estate if our God wasn't about real estate? Think about that for a minute. Stop for your responses, by the way. Don't just settle for one house. Keep pushing yourself. 2 houses, 3 houses. You see, food, clothing, and shelter are the bedrock for humanity. A lot of people don't have that. What if you could become a landlord and provide food, clothing, and shelter, or at least the shelter side of it, for someone else who, for whatever reason, can't get a home? And I'm gonna tell you what, statistics say going forward into this new century is that most people want to rent. They don't want to buy a house. Wow! So for you real estate minded people, your antenna should be up. Most people, when you're looking at this new generation, they don't look at a house as an investment because they hopping and skipping from to and fro, so they'd rather just rent. They have no problem renting, paying your mortgage for you, Baruch Hashem. Isn't that beautiful? Real estate is going to always be in, my friends, family. So for those of you who want some residual income, passive income coming in, you may want to look at real estate properties, real estate home. Just purchasing another home, fixing it up, renting it out, and they paying for your mortgage on the house. They're paying it for you. And then at the same time as they're doing that, you provide them with shelter. Win-win situation. So this guy's name is Robert Kiyosaki. How many of you know this guy? Robert Kiyosaki brought some of his books. You may be familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Anybody read that book? I was given that book as a child to read. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Owner of many properties. Creator of the cash flow board and software games to educate adults and children. Business and financial concepts. Robert Kiyosaki, good man. You can look him up on YouTube too. He's got a lot of good videos on YouTube to get you in a mindset of a businessman, a businesswoman. Real estate. Get it, own it, keep it, hold it. It's a legacy that can be passed on. At the same time, you're helping others, providing shelter. So good quotes by Robert Kiyosaki. I like the man. I've been following him for years. I really like him. He's a good man. He's a good man. So now as we point our eyes towards the Torah, let's open up our Torah now. Let's open up our Torah. In this Parsha Yaetz, let's open this up a little bit and get into this. How many of you have already learned something this day? Now, getting back to the Hasatan thing, this is why it's so very important, is that we point the finger at Hasatan when Hasatan is not even in the Torah. Yet our forefathers made all kind of mistakes. What is that telling you? Our forefathers made all kind of failures in our first 5 books. Anybody agree with me on that? Put up a capital F if you realize that our forefathers in our first 5 books made a lot of failures. Anybody agree with that? Put up a capital F if you say, yeah, Rabbi, you're totally, absolutely right. They made a lot of failures. So here's the question for us this day. Is God concerned with failure? Think about that for a minute. If we fail so much, our matriarchs, our patriarchs, if we fail so much, is his wheelhouse concerned with us failing? Or is he trying to help us succeed? Through the failure, see success, just like Robert Kawasaki talked about. Beautiful stuff, isn't it? And not a one time is Hasatan mentioned. Not a one single time. Listen, for those of you who still didn't get this awesome revelation today, let's go back to the garden. When they were in the garden and they had partaken of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, was Hasatan there? Ooh, that's a question for you. Think about that for a minute. Anybody? Any takers? I know you think like, well, is this a trick question? No, think. Was Hasatan there when they partook of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Was Hasatan there? Was he there? And in all his glory? Was he there, the Son of God, in all his glory? It was a woman that was there. Hasatan wasn't there. It was a woman that was there. It was a woman that was there in the form of Lilith. I was Lilith. She was there. Now, some of you may say, yeah, well, you can say, in an off kind of way. But again, Lilith's motivation was what? She was angry that she was excommunicated from the garden. That made her angry. She was envious of who? Of Hava. Of Eve, as they call her. So how you going to get back as a woman? Oh, you're going to try to destroy him. And if you can't destroy him, now, let's put this in today's time, because this is real life stuff. Let's look at reality. When a woman is angry at a man, because let's face it, Lilith was angry at Adam. Lilith didn't even like Adam. That's why she went about doing all this negativity action stuff. So she realized that she could. How many of you heard this before? I've heard it too from my colleague. Oh, I'm going to get back at him because he did me wrong. You hear the woman talking just like that. Oh, I'm going to get him good. Oh, I'm going to get him. How many of you heard women say that? Ooh, child, I'm going to get him. He going to pay for what he did to me. He going to pay for embarrassing me and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. The first thing a woman will do is she get vindictive and she try to get back and destroy the man. Right? But then when she realized she can't destroy the man, what does she do? She'll come in through the woman. That's just what she did with Hava, with Eve. She came in through the woman. This is, how many of you remember that song? Woman to woman. Who used to sing that song? Help me out, Carl, because I know you know our oldies. Woman to woman. Well, this woman to woman situation going on here. Hasatan was nowhere in this. Now he was in a way because he's on the negative side of things, and believe me, Lilith was operating on the negative side, negative energy, and she's coming with envy and jealousy and total hatred, and she just wanted to tear down anything that Adam stood for. See, I'm giving you the meat and potatoes of it right here. Forget the spirituality. Let's put that to the side. Just dump that. This is all about internal. Remember we said, where's the enemy? We realized and we all understood that the enemy is where? He's within, isn't he? Lilith came from within herself. That's where the enemy really is. Full of envy, full of hatred. Just total hatred. And just wanted to annihilate and destroy. She couldn't do it through the man. Strong vessel. So she went through his weakest vessel. She went through Hava. She went through Eve. And can we say she was successful, Ms. Bahar? Can we say that she was successful? Come on, man. History spells it out for us. She was very successful. It worked. Her plan worked. There was a failure, correct? We talked about failures leading to the awesome success of you and I in the nations this day. Think about that for a minute. Kedai Devorah gave me the woman to woman, sung by Shirley Brown. That's right. Woman to woman. Because that's just what the situation in the garden was. Whether, you see, everybody's, oh, well, Satan was in the garden. Man, Satan wasn't in nobody's garden. Come on now. Satan wasn't in nobody's garden. This is a woman-to-woman situation. Woman to woman. Do you see it now, Mishpah? Oh, I want you to see this. You see, because I've said this many times. Sometimes we give Hasatan so much credit, he don't even deserve it. It's because why? We fail to recognize where the enemy really is. The enemy's within. That's what the enemy is, man. I remember that my thought process was this, is that, you know, my whole life was about me not letting Satan take control of me. Anybody had that thought process at one time? Me combating Satan. Me not falling for Satan's tricks. Anybody used to be in that category? That was my drive with life. Okay, I'm not going to succumb to the evil one, to Satan. See, that was me not understanding who the enemy really was. The enemy was in myself. All these bad habits I had was because of myself. It had nothing to do with Hasatan. And every time I would get in that particular environment, the bad habit would happen. Boom. That's just what would happen. Until I began to learn, okay, I can be in this particular environment and not do the bad habit. I'm going to teach myself, I'm not going to fall for that trick anymore. It happened 15 times. I'm not looking for a 16th. How many of you are with me on this day? I want you all to understand and really, you know, get something from the lecture this day. Take something that you can use in your 6 days of labor that's going to help you move forward. Add a arrow to your quiver. It's going to really help you be successful. So that's what it was in the garden. So now, again, as I look at my mother Leyah, and not Leyah, because Leyah is not my mother, by the way. But I'm pretty sure some of you students of nature, you look at some of these folks, you say, Leyah is your mama. you look at some of these folks and you say, oh yeah, Leyah is your mama for sure. You see? Because of why? Because of their behavior, because of the actions that you witness on the ground. Now today I want to look at Leyah, and I titled this lecture Leyah's Lesson. Now Leyah's lesson is all about a relationship. Now it's not only Leyah involved here, because when I say relationship, what does it take to be in a relationship? Anybody, any takers? What does it take to be in a relationship? What is the recipe for a relationship? Anybody tell me? Any kind of relationship. What's the recipe for a relationship? What's the basics that you need to have, the ingredients to make and formulate a relationship? Abrahu says communication. What's the basis of a relationship? Okay, understanding, Devorah says, Devorah, commitment. What's the basis to a relationship? All right, to consider yourself in a relationship, what do you need? What's the requirements to be in a relationship? Any takers? Respect, okay. These are great characteristics. Now, I want to look at physical characteristics. What do you need? Physical characteristics. To be in a relationship. What is the requirement? If I'm here, what else do I need to establish a relationship? If I'm on one side, what needs to be on the other side to establish a relationship? Baruch says a job. Line Princess, there you go. Kedai Line Princess. Line Princess says 2 people. Okay. Yes, you need 2 people. Now, you just can't have one person and have a relationship unless you have another relationship with yourself. And you can't do that. All of us need to have a healthy relationship with ourselves. But you still need two people. Remember I told you this book that I'm reading, the War of Art. He talks about most people are living, most people are living two lives. They're living the life that they're living, and then they're living the unlived life. You see, that is even a relationship, the unlived life. And I know all of you now, you understand that you are alive, so you're living that unlived life that you didn't live before. And he gave a great example about this. I want to pull from his book for a minute, because he talked about it. I thought this was very, very interesting. He talked about a woman. He gave the scenario of a woman. She went to the doctor. She was diagnosed with cancer and given 6 months to live. So the woman went home and she quit her job. I'm paraphrasing. She went home and she quit her job. And she stopped working, and she began to do all the things that she ever wanted to do. She began to go and donate her time to the women's shelter. She began to go and volunteer at children's homes and do all of these things. She began to involve herself in the neighborhood watch and things like this. And when her 6 months was up, guess what, Ms. Fahad? When her 6 months was up, her cancer was in remission. And the author goes on to talk about, well, why does it take such a drastic situation for us to get to the point to where we realize that the power that we have within ourselves, and that we realize that we're truly happy doing the things that we truly want to do before we expire from the face of this earth? Why do we have to be put in such drastic scenarios or situations or experiences to get to that point, to where we realize how powerful we really are? And all that came from within herself, because she changed her whole life. Well, why does it take a drastic situation like being diagnosed with cancer, God forbid, for you to change your whole life and be happy and to totally annihilate and eradicate cancer from your body, this particular disease process? My goodness. What an eye-opener, right? I thought it was a great analogy, a great analogy to give. Is that we shouldn't have to get to the lowest of the lowest point to realize the greatness that we are, and that, the Creator of all things gave us. You're great in this room. And if you're here, you're not here by happenstance, because you needed to hear this, Baruch Hashem. It's like I need to hear it every day. I am great. I am greatness. I am a genius. I am a creator. Baruch Hashem. Thank you to the Master Jesus of Nazareth. The Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, he said it himself. He said, you're going to do greater things than that. So I am great. Because the Master said so. He said, greater things are you going to do than I'm doing. I'm paraphrasing. How many of you in this room say, I'm great? You say, Rabbi, I'm great. You should. You put up a capital G, because you are great. Greatness is within you. You don't have to go hunt down greatness. It's already within you. You just have to conjure it up, baby. You have to conjure it up, and you just have to be great, because you are great. I am greatness. I am great. So then be great. Do great. So I found it very interesting. In this woman's story, this scenario that he gave that happens in real life, if people change their lives and do truly what they desire to do, and they find themselves more happy, more complete, more whole. That's beautiful. Why does it have to get that scenario? I don't know. Because some people, they have to get to the valley before they can climb up to the mountaintop and be on the mountain. That's just the human nature of some folks. And if you want to put it into the medical science side of things, it's like fight or flight. When you're being diagnosed with cancer, you're going to fight or you're going to fly. That's just what you're going to do. You're going to stand up to it, or you're going to go and you're going to go into recluse mode, and you're going to fly away. You're going to run away from it. You're going to stand up to it and face the music. And you're going to do all those things like this woman did that she always wanted to do before her life expired on the face of this earth. And she began to do all those things that she wanted to do. And then guess what? Cancer went into remission. Baruch Hashem. Thank you, God of the universes in this earth. Powerful stuff, but true. Powerful and true stuff. Great stuff. So when we look at Leyah's lesson, it's a lesson based on relationship. And this relationship is based on a relationship of love. How many of you in this room want a relationship of love? Anybody want a relationship of love? How many of you in this room want a relationship of love? Because again, it has been, love has been commercialized these days. A relationship of truly love, you see. And if you do want this relationship of love, here's a question that I do have for you. What is a love relationship to you? What's your definition of a love relationship? Any takers? What is your definition of a love relationship? There's no wrong answer here. It's just your opinion and what you think. But what is your definition of a love relationship? Think about that for a minute. You may need to think on that for a minute, and that's okay. But we look at Leah's lesson, because Leah is my full mother, Baruch Hashem. She is my full mother. And so I wanted to look at her whole relationship with love. And this is not woman bashing, because I love women. I love women. I truly love women. And after seeing the birth of my son Nakshan, my goodness, I have a place of love for women that, oh my goodness, women are superheroes. You guys, women, you are superheroes. You are amazing. You are amazing. You're strong. And you do things men could never dream about doing, right, men? You're amazing. And I respect you for that. And I truly honor you for who you are. Truly, I do. So we look at this, and we look at Leah's situation, and we look at the relationship of what a love relationship should be, and we grow from that, and we learn from that. And what do we learn? Well, let's open it up here. But before we do that, I would like to read from Genesis chapter 28, verse 13. Again, I read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. If you don't have that Bible, you can purchase it on Amazon. It's a great, great addition to your libraries for those of you who are students of the Bible and you study the Bible and you really want to understand what the Bible really is all about. Get the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. Genesis chapter 28, verse 13. And behold, Yahweh stood. Listen, okay, let's set the scenario. Everybody, knows about the ladder and Jacob's ladder. Everybody talks about that. Christianity even talks about that. But they talk about Jacob's ladder and they give you all this interpretation and blah, 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 what Jacob's ladder really is and blah, 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 what does it mean and what's the meaning behind it and all this, that, the other, and the third. But let's look at it. Genesis chapter 28, verse 13. And behold, Yahweh stood above it and said. Now, Yahweh is above the ladder. He's above the ladder. And he says this. This is what Jacob sees in his vision. And he says, I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham your father and the Elohim of Yitzhak. The land in which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. Now, let's talk about that land for a minute. I was able to go, fortunate enough to go and see that land where Jacob lied. And I tell you, it was truly a humbling experience there in Israel to really see the temple ruins and the temple site itself being plowed over on these beautiful fields. It was really humbling, a humbling experience and a really a set apart, a holy experience. Because I tell you, just like our prophet said, the land is definitely plowed over, and it's not full of commercialism and buses coming to and fro and everybody trying to sell all these souvenirs. No, it's super quiet there, it's peaceful there, and you see all this green land, and you see all the temple ruins. I have some of the rocks and stuff that I brought back from Israel. The rocks and the dirt, everything from the temple site. It truly, I'm telling you, it truly, so it becomes real to me when I read this verse that, that Jacob, he's laying down, and that the God of Israel is telling them, the land in which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. Well, I have that land right now here in San Antonio, parts of it, Baruch Hashem. I'm keeping it as my keepsake. I'm going to pass it on to my children, my children's children. If the Master so desires to linger, before he brings us back into the land, which is a promise that is not fulfilled as of yet. Even though there's been a manufacturing of a so-called aliyah, we're not part of that. Take your name out of that stuff. That's not your relationship, okay? Stay out of that relationship. Our relationship says that our God is going to bring us back. So we wait. The land in which you lie. Wow. And I'm just imagining, wow, I can have part of the land, I can have the earth where Jacob was laying down on the stone. I can have that. And I have little rocks, man, I can have the very rock. Who knows? A piece of the rock. I don't know. I think Prudential used to have a commercial, get a piece of the rock. I can have a piece of the rock. Wow. Look at verse 14 of Genesis chapter 28. Also your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread out abroad to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And in you and in your seed shall all the mishpahot, shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Not cursed, but be blessed. So the YouTubers on here, and you're seeing all these so-called Jewish, Hebrew, Israelite, blah, 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 so you say, you're cursed? No. We're putting these nations to be what? To be a blessing. That's the promise. That's the love relationship that we have with the God of Israel being revealed again to one of our patriarchs. Jacob's ladder, baby. This is what it's all about. This is being said in the vision of Jacob's ladder. Why nobody ever mentioned this to me in these other interpretations that I'm getting of Jacob's ladder? Let's just say what God said. Let's just say what we have in the black and white. This is again solidifying the covenants made with who? With what family? Man, this is I tell you, this is awesome stuff here. Because now we honing in on the very point of the whole Bible when we look at it in itself and who it pertains to. Jesus didn't come for everybody. He came for the scattered sheep of the house of Israel. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what Jesus said. That's what he said. And look, doesn't that correlate with Genesis 28 and 14? Also your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. How many of you right now are in one of those directions? Is that not true? We've been spread. So don't hate the spreading. That's a part of the promise, the love relationship, the covenant. Think about it for a minute. Come on, let's get real here. And in your seed shall all the mishpahot, shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Look at verse 15. Behold, I am with you and will guard you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. That's for you and I today, going into this new century. Remember we talked about those people saying, oh, I'm so lonely, Rabbi. No, you're not. God said he would never leave you. Do you see it, Mishpahah? You're not going to be left. You're not forgotten. He said, I'm with you and will guard you wherever you go. That should be encouragement for all of you this day. All of you should be saying, Baruch Hashem, raising your hands towards the heavens. This is being said from the ladder, man. The Master Yahweh is above the ladder saying this. He said, don't worry about this. Now, here's the question for you. Did Jacob see it? Was it fulfilled in Jacob? Is this fulfilled? That's the question. Although some may say it's been fulfilled, that Jesus fulfilled it. What's your take on it? Has it been fulfilled? The Master Yahweh says, I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. Let's just say it this way. Is it done? What's your take on it, Mishpahah? You illustrious 18 in the room. Is it done? Is it finished? To Oliver. Oliver seems to be the only one up, and he's in France. Is it done? Help me out here. Because last time I checked, I'm still out here spread. I'm spread out. I don't know about you, but I'm spread out. The only person in here who say they're not spread out is the ones that are in Israel right now, because they're not spread out. They're in Israel. Chadasha for your responses, by the way. But look what it says right here. I mean, this is confirmation, and this should be, oh man, this should be soulless, and this should make your back stand up erect And you read this verse in Genesis chapter 28, verse 15. Behold, I am with you, and I will guard you wherever you go. That's for you and I, Mishpahah. Thank you to Master Yahweh for guarding me wherever I go. And that's not just the borders of Israel, by the way, because he also says that he spread us. He spread us in verse 14. And you shall spread abroad. We've been spread like seed. We've just been thrown out there and spread. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? You've been spread. And then he goes on to say, I will bring you back to this land in verse 15. He's going to bring us back. We talked about Robert Kiyosaki, but all of you are real estate owners. Do you all understand that? This is why you need to be in real estate now, because you are real estate owners now. You're like, huh? Wait a minute. I'm a real estate owner? Absolutely. All of you in this room have land rights. Do you understand? Put up a capital L if you understand. You have land rights. Right now. You have land rights. Now, does that just pertain to in the land? Or do you have rights outside of the land too? You should be buying land right now. All of you should be buying land. Lands. You have land rights. That's in your DNA. That's why I asked you earlier. How many of you have this real estate bug within you? To where you just want to own not one house, two houses, three houses, apartment complexes, office buildings. That's in our DNA. We have land rights. That's our makeup. We're inheritors of land. My goodness. Baruch Hashem. Yes, we understand it. To offer your response is that, it's not done yet. We're not finished. And the Master says, I will not leave you until I've done what I've spoken to you. Wow. That's real love. Because love is action to me. So can you see the stage where we are right now? We in the stage, we've been spread already. We've been spread. Now we're in the nations right now. And now we wait. But what do we do while we wait? Do we sit there and play spades all day long until the Master comes? No. We've been told also in Genesis 28 verse 14 to be a blessing to these lands where we're going to be spread. Do you see it now, Mishpahah? So those of you who listen via YouTube and give us some of these groups that are all about this hatred and blah, blah, blah. Hey, that's not the seed of Jacob. That's not the promises that were given. That's not the love relationship. That's not the covenant that we have with the God of Israel. That's not a part of it. That's not what the covenant says for us to be out here protesting. The covenant says for us out here to be a blessing to these nations. Invent, create, do great things for these nations, right? Be participants in these nations and raise these nations up to places where they never thought they'd be. Isn't that what Joseph did? Joseph went into Egypt and took Egypt to superpower status. Think about that for a minute. We should be doing the same thing in our spiritual Egypt. It's taking these places, these nations to superpower status. Making them great. Making them greater than great, right? Isn't that beautiful, Mishpahah? So we see that in this relationship. Parsha, because it's all about relationships, love relationships. But first, let's deal with the ladder. All of this took place in Jacob's ladder dream, from what we told in our books. This was the promise. So when you get to the top of the ladder, what do you hear? As we're told that the Master Yahweh was above the ladder. He stood above the ladder and said in verse 13 of Genesis 28. I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Yitzhak. The land in which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. How many of you are descendants of Jacob? Claim it. Claim it. That's your right. That's your right. That's your land right, your land responsibility, Mishpahah. This is your right. This is the love relationship promise that is still not fulfilled. So what do we do in the meantime? We be a blessing to these nations. We're in these nations, we've been spread in these nations, and we be a blessing to these nations. That's the type of love relationship we need to have with the nations that we're in. You need to love where you're at, and if you don't love where you're at, then you need to change it to where you do love where you're at, and you can be a productive citizen and do great things for the nation that you're in. And be truly grateful and humble. And have an attitude of gratitude instead of attitude of just complaining. Oh, why am I here? Why, Yahweh, you wait so long to bring me back to the knowledge of the truth? Blah, 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 blah. Why this? Why that? The promise is spelled out right here before you. Is that you're here to be a blessing. You've been spread. Isn't that the benefit? That's one of the greatest blessings of the exile, of why we've been spread into all these nations. It's to be a blessing to these nations. The exile is not a curse, by the way, because we're blessed people. So all this cursing, mumbo jumbo, don't believe that hype. Don't fall for that. Don't be hoodwinked and bamboozled into thinking that you're cursed and you're supposed to be running around here angry at everybody. No, 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 no. And you're supposed to put down everybody. No, Torah doesn't shame anybody. Torah is alive. Most folks aren't, but the Torah is alive. And the Torah needs to be placed in the land of the living so that the living can become what? Alive. Torah will animate you. You get this breath of life within you, you'll get animated quick. And you'll become alive. While everybody else is running around here like loose chickens. So we look at the relationship. Now Jacob is going to build relationships now. Love relationships. Now Jacob, I can see him. He has this collection of 45s and his LPs, and he's got all his Luther Vandross specials, and Marvin Gaye. Now it's time for the love doctor to come on board. Baruch Hashem. Got the love doctor here. So now Jacob wants to get it on. But how does that happen? Let's cover some of this. Now we're going to get into my mother, Leyah. Leah's lesson. What's Leah's lesson that we can learn from here? Genesis chapter 29. Let's look at verse 13. And it came to pass when Laban heard the report that Yaakov, his sister's son, about Yaakov, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his bait, to his house. And so he told Laban all these things. In verse 14. And Laban said to him, surely you are my substance and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. Okay, family relations, that's how I go down. Verse 13. Then Laban said to Yaakov, because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be? First clue for you men in this room, and the women as well, as descendants of Jacob. Now, first clue, I want you to pay close attention to this, because a lot of times it's just read over, people don't understand this. Now, the relative saying, look, Laban said, hey man, we're family here. You're not going to work for free. What do you want? What's your wages? I mean, what do you want? What does Jacob say? Let's keep reading. What do you want? What are your wages? Verse 16. And now Laban had two daughters. The name of the elder was Leyah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Look at verse 17. And Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was beautiful of form and appearance. Look at verse 18. Now Yaakov loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. Stop right there. This is the first lesson that we need to learn in our family history, in our family custom and tradition, and let's just say family law here for Jacob. What's the first thing that you learn here? What can you glean from what I just read? Now, I don't want to make you dig too deep because we can go all over the place. But I'm gonna pinpoint it for you. Men, women, the first thing that you should learn is that you should work for a woman. How many of you see that? The first thing that you should learn, men, is that you should work for a woman. Work for your wife. Work for your mate. Somebody make a rap song about this. But do you see it? That's the first thing. You see, the family members say, hey, what wages, what money do you want? Jacob didn't want no money. Jacob didn't want no money. What did he say? He said, I want to work for your daughter, Leyah. Do you see it, Mishpahah? The first thing you should do is work for your woman. Women, make sure you get a husband that's going to work for you. That's a Hebrew trait. Is he going to work for you? You with me, Mishpahah? Men, you're going to have to work for your wives. Now, what that work entails, work smart. Don't work hard, but you're going to have to work. Now, some folks like working hard. If you like working hard, so be it. Some folks just like being in construction and doing all that necessary. But I like to work smart, not hard. But I'm working for my family. That's one of the key things that I notice here in human nature. Out here where I'm dispersed is that I see a lot more of the women working than the men. How many of you have realized that as well? Is that you get a lot of women that's working, but the men aren't doing diddly squat. I'm like, wait a minute. That's not a characteristic of Jacob. A man is going to want to work. That's the characteristic of Jacob. Is he's going to work. Not that the woman can't work, but the man is going to work. He's going to work for his wife. That's the first sign that we see with Jacob. And as descendants of Jacob, we should be doing the same thing. Work for our wives. Should be working. Work for your wife. No, Jacob, he put in a lot of work. He said 7 years for Rachel, I'll do it. Okay, look at verse 19. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man. Stay with me. So the deal is done and dusted. Look at the deal is done and dusted. So what I wanted you to learn from that bit right there of our history is that men, work for your wife. Work for her. Woman, look for a husband that's going to work for you. Not just, oh baby, I'm going to work for you, but you seeing some pay stubs and you seeing some tax returns and say, hey, this man does work. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. Say, honey, I want to see your tax return. Because I want to see if you're really working or if you're spooging off the government. Nothing against those people that are on the government, because that's a good one-upper. The government here will help you raise yourself up from where you're at. I think that's important. I think that's very important. And now what we also see here in that verse that we read there in verse 19, I think it's verse 18 of 29, is that Jacob loved Rahel. He loved her. We talked about that love word, love relationship. That's what it's about. So Jacob said, yeah, I'm going to put on my Al Green. I'm going to put on my Luther Vandross for you. My Barry White. Because I love you, baby. And we're going to get it on. Give me 7 years. I'm going to work for you, Rahel, because I love you. Remember we talked about? Love is a what? Not just a word. Not said in word, but in what? Deed. Did Jacob feel the deed part of love? Anybody want to respond to that? Did Jacob not fulfill the deed part of love? He's showing love in what? Love in action. 7 years? Are you kidding me? That's some love. 7 years, Miss Fahar. Not 6 months. Not 2 weeks. 7 years, Miss Fahar. That's some love. Tina Turner say what love got to do with it? I say everything. Show me your actions. Okay, let's keep it going here. Let's go down. Let's go down. You all know the story, but I want to go down to verse 29. I'm sorry, chapter 29, verse 30. Then Jacob also went into Rahel, and he also And he also loved Rahel more than he loved Leah. This is the point I want to get to right here with the love relationship. And my mother Leah. What is Leah's lesson that we learn here? And he also loved Rahel more than Leyah. And he served with Laban still another 7 years. So, follow the story along. We all know that Yaakov, he does his first 7 years for Rahel. He doesn't get Rahel the first 7 years because the tradition was that, Leah was the older sister, so you got to go through the older sister to get to the younger sister. So, Jacob marries Leah, but he didn't love Leah because he was in love with Rahel. But, he marries Leah to meet the criteria so that he can get to Rahel. So he works for Rahel another 7 years. Then this is the point where we get to right in verse 30, where he marries Rahel, and now he has Rahel and Leah as wives with their handmaidens as well. And then even after that, he served Laban still another 7 years. What loyalty! You see the commitment? Men, pay attention. Leah's lesson here. Do you see the commitment? Even more commitment here. He stays another 7 years. My goodness. Another 7 years. Now, let's look at Genesis 29 verse 31. Then Yahweh saw that Leyah was loved less, and he opened her womb. But Rahel was barren. But Rachel was left barren. But he opened the womb of Rahel. Because why? Because Leah was loved less. Still was a love there, but it was a lesser love. Because we already saw from the beginning in our readings in our books that Jacob initially loved Rahel. He worked those first 7 years for Rahel, didn't get her. So then he said, no, I'll work 14 years for Rachel. So he worked another 7 years. But with all this going on, how do you think Leah felt? I mean, let's put ourselves in Leah's situation. This is why I named this lecture Leah's Lesson. Let's put ourselves in her situation for a minute. She's like, wow, man, I'm with this man only because he wants my sister. Can you see this thing? Put yourself in her situation for a minute. Yahweh even sees it. And he says, wait a minute. How are we going to rectify? How am I going to bring justice to this? How are we going to make this right? And see, so now you're going to begin to see the process. Look at Genesis chapter 29, verse 32. So Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, now listen, I want you to clue in on what Leah says here. For she said, Yahweh has surely looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. Wow. I want you to pay attention, men and women, especially men. Is that even though, Jacob had more than one wife, but you need to look at this with the one wife standpoint as well. Listen to what Leah says here. She says, Yahweh has surely seen my affliction. Wow. And now therefore my husband will love me. How many of you have seen that sometime or another in your studies of human nature, that a woman will have a child just to get the love of a husband. She thinks the child will be the elixir fixer. Oh, if I have this baby with this, and see, this is why this, especially down here in my neck of the woods, San Antonio, this is why so many of these young girls having all these babies with no baby daddy around, with no father figure around, because baby daddy done hopped and skipped in several other beds. It's because the young girls, the hoodwinks and bamboozled. Oh, if I have his baby, then he's going to stay with me. Well, she has the baby. The minute she tells him, oh, I'm pregnant, guess what? He leaves. How many of you know that scenario? You're familiar with that. And now the girl is left to have the baby by herself. You see? You see? And so look at Leah's lesson here. The same thing. She said, well, now that I had a baby by him, now he's going to love me more. That'll make him love me. He'll have more of a love for me. Oh, lovely Leah. We can learn from Leah's lesson here. All she wants is love. Men, I'll pay attention to this. She wants love of her husband. She wants the love of her husband. That's all she wants. She's telling us this in the birth of her children. She's saying it. Reuben first. Look at Genesis 29:33. Then she conceived again and bore a son, and said, because Yahweh has heard that I am loveless. Oh my goodness, here we go again. Now that Yahweh has heard that I am loveless, he has therefore given me a son also. And she called his name Shimon. You see the love thing going on? The love relationship. Leah's lesson. Now, I get it now. I truly get it. When you have a son, my goodness, that's probably more so during that time. But I tell you what, now that I have a son, my firstborn is a son. My goodness, do you know how proud I am? I'm super proud. I'm super happy. I have a son. First goal, Miss Fahar. I give thanks. I scripted that. I wanted a son, and I have a son. Believe me, I scripted it. I scripted that. Baruch Hashem. It's my desire. That's my dream. Is to have a son, and I do have a son. And I tell you, there's nothing looking. And you know, I've been saying this these past couple of weeks. I get it when we see in our New Testament when the Hokmah says, "This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased." How many of you know that verse in the New Testament? He says that. This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. I get that now because I'm saying that now. I look at Nachshon, I look at my son, and I say the same thing. I say, this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. Super happy, super excited, super humble to have a son. So even with consecutive sons, Leyah still has the mindset, oh, I'm lacking love. Do you see it, Miss Farah? Say with me, Leah's lesson. Genesis 29 verses 34. She conceived again and bore a son and said, now this time my husband will become attached to me because I have bore him 3 sons. Therefore she named she called his name Levi. My goodness. She's there with my 3 sons. And she's saying now my husband will attach himself to me. Men, please learn from Leah's lesson. Show your wife love, give her love, and tell her that you love her. Because nobody should be put through Leah's scenario. Multiple wives, one wife don't matter. Yeah, you can say, well, Jacob had a lot of stuff on his plate. Maybe he did. But we knew going in that Jacob's mindset was love for who? Was love for Rachel. Period. Full stop. Leah's lesson here. And those of us that are in a monogamy, it can go the same way. Maybe it's not another wife that you love it more. Maybe it's the job. Maybe it's a hobby that you love it more than your wife. Maybe it's time hanging out with your friends you love that more. Man, I hear it. My colleagues, most of them are females. And believe me, they talk. They talk and do they talk. They talk about the deficiencies in their relationship. Like, oh, he don't do this with me, but he spend more time with his friends. Or he spend more time with his basketball hobby. Or he goes fishing and blah, 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 blah. Don't neglect your women, your wives. Don't neglect your wife. Show her love, give her love, and be love to your wife. Leah's lesson. Learn from it. Learn from it, Mishpahah. No woman should be saying the things that Leah's saying in this day and time because we have Leah's lesson to look at. We have this lesson. We can learn from this. Genesis 29 verse 35. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, now I will speak forth the name of Yahweh. Therefore she called his name Yahudah. Then she stopped bearing. And then let's jump down to Genesis 30 and verse 1. And now Rachel saw that she bore Yaakov no children. Rachel envied her sister. Oh, there you go. Rachel envied her sister and said to Yaakov, "Give me children or else I die." Oh my goodness. Here we go again. The threat. And I can see why in verse 2 of Genesis 30. And Yaakov's anger was aroused against Rachel or Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of Elohim, who has withheld you the fruit of your womb?" The envy sets in. Jealousy. Now you got to understand, these are sisters. You got to understand this, these are sisters. A lot of lessons to learn in there from men, but these are sisters, close connected together. Another great lesson for men going forward is if you are in plural marriage, like at one time I was in, you have to make sure that you have these wives far apart from each other. You can't have them like kissing cousins. That's a no-no and a no-go. Are you with me? I want you to all understand that. But I know you guys are focusing on just getting to one wife, and so be it, Baruch Hashem. But if you ever get into plural marriage, you need to seek counsel from my Kohen or from myself. Because there's ways to do it and there's ways not to do it. See, there's ways to do it that are just and fair, and there's ways to do it that is totally evil. And ways to do it to where you totally misrepresent the Torah of Moses. So you must guard yourself against that. And the majority of the people that are teaching plural marriage on the internet, they're doing it the wrong way. There's no respect and honor for the woman whatsoever, for the wife whatsoever. And you find the same scenario where one wife is loved more than the other wife, and blah, 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 and the envy sets in, all these negative energies that produces negativity. Are you with me, Ms. Bahar? I know I'm getting ready to close. I know I've been going for a minute. I'm getting ready to close in a minute. But I want you all to see Leah's lesson that we need to learn from here. And this can come from a monogamy relationship as well, because the other love don't have to be another woman. It could be a sport. You like sit there and watch these sports on TV all day. You never want to leave the house and do things with the wife. And, she feels like she's loved less. Maybe you love the dog more. My goodness. It could be anything. But the master was not done with Leah. So we still see that Rachel had envy for her sister. Jealousy. Thus making her say things that she really didn't mean. She wanted to die. I mean, this is how important having children were back in the day. Especially sons. If you didn't have no sons, look at Rachel saying she wanted to die. Give me children or I'm going to die. Do you see the importance of having sons? And believe me, in the East it's still the same way. That mentality is still there. The importance of having a son for your husband? Oh man. I couldn't mention this before, is that, there's no honor for a woman that can't bring her husband a son. Daughters, okay, and even in China, my goodness, that's even more honored for you to bring forth a son. Because the girls at one time, baby girls were getting aborted, Miss Fahar. I'm going to just call it what it is. They were getting aborted. If you had a girl, they would go and do abortion. Girl, abortion. Girl, abortion. How many of you know of this? Well, I'm telling you right now, it's true. My wife tells me stories about this. And so now they done got to the point now in China, it's to where, you know how you do your sonograms, ultrasounds and all that? Sonograms for the baby, the doctors, it's law that they cannot tell the parents if it's a boy or a girl. But guess what they do? The parents will pay the doctor money on the side, and the doctor will tell them. And if it's a girl, they're still aborting the girl. Still killing the girl. Boys are exalted. Have a boy? Oh, that's honor. So do you see the custom is still there in the East? Boys. And Rachel wasn't having nothing. So she's like, I'd rather just die. Give me some children or kill me. Or I just want to die. Heavy stuff, huh, Miss Bahar? This is Eastern mindset. You get, what's the Western mindset? Western, they don't even want to have children. No, that's too much pain. Oh, I got this going on. I don't have time for no children and blah, blah, blah. Not all in the West, but the majority, the mindset of the woman is they're going out after the career. Their first love is the career, not raising a family. Understanding that's the bedrock to success is a family unit. Now these women that are in positions of power, they realize that. And they'll be willing to give up that position of power just to go home and raise children. And to be a homemaker. And to bear and bring forth righteous children that do great things for the nation. Leah's lesson. Let's continue to learn and grow. Genesis chapter 30, verse 17. Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a fifth son. Look at Leah's lesson here that we get in our history. I mean, what other matriarch, like the children are named off fifth, fourth, second, first. Who else gets this? And we're going to read something here in a minute that's going to blow you away as well. Really help you understand the importance of Leah, our matriarch. Very important that we learn her lesson, because why would Torah spell things out like this for Leah? It's because she deserved this respect and honor, because she wasn't getting it from her husband. It's one of the reasons. Genesis verse 30. Genesis chapter 30 verse 18. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my hire, because I have given my handmaid to my husband. So she called his name Yishishkar. Verse 19 of Genesis 30. Then Leah conceived again and bore Yaakov a sixth son. I'm telling you, Mishpah, can anybody tell me who else in the Torah, matriarch, that the children were just named off just like this? Boom, 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 boom. With numbers placed to the name. Who else gets this respect? Who else gets this highlight? Nobody. Nobody in our Torah. No other matriarch gets this. But Leah does. What a great honor, right? Six. Okay, here we go. We had the fifth son. Okay, let's look at Genesis 30 and verse 19. Then Leah conceived again and bore Yaakov a sixth son. My good. Verse 20. And Leah said, Elohim has endowed me with good endowment. Now my husband will dwell with me, because I have bore him six sons. So she called his name Zebulon. And afterward, listen to this. Now look at verse 21. And afterward she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah or Dinah. Here's another question that I have for you, you Torah students. What other matriarch has the daughter's name written in the Torah? Any other matriarch? Or patriarch for that matter, when they start naming the begotten, that a female, the daughter was named. Is there anybody in our Torah? Do you see the honor that was given to Leah? I see it. Torah gives her honor. And of course, for a woman, a baby girl to be named, this is for a reason. Remember, our Cody teaches us all the time is that sometimes the Torah is silent about things. So when the Torah names some things in there, it's for a great reason. And we know why Dinah or Dana was named, right? Do we all know? We know why. We'll get to that later on. But we know why, because she played a big role, right? And she was named. We all know what happened to Dana, right? We know. So she's actually, her name is written. Whilst, you got to, dig to the other end of the earth to find Lilith in our books, right? But here, Dana is just listed clear as day, her name. What an honor. What an honor. So when we look at, I'm getting ready to close here, but so when we look at Leah's lesson, what do we learn here? Because men, you can learn something, and women, you can learn something as well. There's both sides that can learn. Now, from the woman's point of view, we can learn that Leah was what? She was patient. We know she was hurt. We know her feelings was hurt. She was probably an emotional wreck, but she stayed consistent and she stayed loyal to her husband. And she always sought the love of her husband more than anything. And she showed her love by continuing to. I mean, how many of you in this room have put out 6 sons? How many of you have birthed 6 sons? My goodness, I see my wife birth my 1 son, and I'm like, wow. I just can't imagine her doing that 6 or 5 other times. I can't imagine it. You women are superhumans. You're heroes. You're heroes in my book. So are you with me, Mr. Bahad? Now, from the men point of view, men in this room, we're closing. Can you tell me what have you learned from this, from Leyah's lesson? What have you learned that you can utilize to prevent you and your relations and your love relations from going down this same path? What can you do, men? Men, you want to answer that question? You want to take it up? What can you do? What can you do to avoid, a Leyah scenario? Well, you can show your love. You can show your wife love. You can tell your wife that you love her. You can give your wife love. You must shower your wife with love. You must do that, men. It's because women, they're weaker vessels. And they've been taken advantage of and disadvantaged. I'm telling you, especially in the East, women are not seen in the same stature as men. And they've been degraded, they've been put down. I'm hearing stories from our Kohen that, my goodness, maybe he'll come back and tell us when he gets back, but I tell you, the humanity has just disrespected women and dishonored women for a very long time. And many injustices have been shown to women. And so we must stop that as men. We must stop the injustices, and we must err on the side of love, showing love, showering a woman with love and compassion, and respect that they do. I think that's important. Very, very important in this day and age. Because women desire that. They want that. And you heard earlier, women want to be told that they're loved. They need to be told that. That nourishes them. That really does nourish them. That nourishes them when you tell them that. Honey, I love you. You know what I tell my wife? I tell her, honey, I love you to the moon and back. That's my thing. And I was in Walmart. I even found a pillow that said that. So I bought her that pillow. It says, I love you to the moon and back. And see, women need to be told that. I tell you, that puts this shine, this glow on my wife's face when I tell her that. It makes her feel good. That not only do I show her in my action, but she needs to hear it in my words as well. Honey, that I love you. I love you, honey. You awesome. She's a superhero, man. I'm telling you, after the birth of my first son, I tell you, only child, my first, I tell you what, women, you guys are, you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Okay, now are there any questions going forward? Because we're going to wrap it up here. I know I kind of went a little bit over, but I think it's important that we do understand that, and we do delve a little bit deeper into our history and see, that our stories are more than mere stories, but they're lessons for us to learn from. We can learn from our matriarchs just as well as we can learn from our patriarchs. So I think that's important to understand. And just like Kawasaki said, Robert Kawasaki says that you're always growing, you're always learning, and you're always pushing. Always pushing. Pushing to be a better lover. Learning to be a better husband, a better wife. And growing that relationship. That's beautiful. And then you're successful. That's when you meet success. You see, because I tell you what, I guarantee you the women in this room will tell a man this. Do what you did to get me. Continue to do what you did that attracted me to you. Don't digress. Progress from that. Right, women? Am I right? Continue to do what you did that attracted me to you in the beginning. And then progress from there. Don't digress. Start going backwards. Do what you did in the beginning that attracted me to you, man. Husband. That's what a woman wants. And then progress from there. Chadasha, that a Torah. That's what a woman wants. That's what she wants, baseline. And then get better from that. Don't get worse from what you did to get me, because then, my goodness, it's like you sold her a bunch of rotten apples. But the outside cover looked good, but inside the core was rotten. That's not fair. That's not just, and that's not right. Too many injustices have been done to women. And we as the children of Israel need to correct that. You men, we need to step up. We all need to step up as men and correct that. And then you're going to see a whole bunch of women flocking to your ZCs then, because they're going to want that kind of attention, that kind of love, the love factor, a love relationship that you offer. Okay? So on that note, I'll wrap it up for this Shabbat, and we'll say Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and we'll say Shalom Shalom to you, and we'll learn Leyah's lessons together. Baruch Hashem, and we'll continue to grow and learn from our history, from our books, and we'll continue to delve and cut away and peel away at the layers of this Torah, and continue to use these things to build and establish great relationships while we wait for the Master to take us back to our land. In the meantime, doing great things in these lands. Thank you all very much. Todah Rabbi for all of you that stayed around and listened, so that you can learn and you can go out and do great things and be successful, however you see success, and however you envision success, and however you desire and dream about success. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up because I have to go change some diapers. Have diapers to change over here. And I'm truly happy to do that, change diapers and do all those other things that a father is supposed to do to show that he loves his son. So I'm willing to do that. So on that note, we'll wrap it up, and I'll say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to you. And I love you all, and I leave you all in the mighty hands of the Master Yahweh. And that's a wrap. Have a great one, Mishpachah. Great 6 days of labor ahead. And if the Master so desires to linger, I'll see you next Shabbat. And if I don't see you next Shabbat in this land, I'll see you in Israel.